All right, hello wine drinking people. We're back with more of what I've had to drink yesterday, and the South Beach Food and Wine Festival just left town last week, and we had some people in town, as we always do. We try to take advantage of some of the wine stars that are in South Florida for this grand occasion, and Rob Sweeney, our good friend from Vinecliff, is usually here. So when I was out to see Rob in August, went out in Napa in August, I said, Rob, man, we haven't done a dinner in a while. Let's do something when you come into town. He was nice enough to send us some really cool stuff from the winery, in addition to the 2 wines that we have available in the market. You know, hey, we're really happy for your success, Rob. Really happy that you're selling everything now direct at the winery almost, and you don't need us, but we're also very happy to be friends because Rob still sends us everything that he makes. Anything that we want, anyways. We get private stock, we get the Napa Cab, we get the Chard, the Proprietress Reserve Chardonnay. Pretty much anything I call Rob up and say, Rob, man, I gotta have this. He says, Andrew, no problem, buddy. So it's not what you know, it's who you know. This 2010 Chardonnay from Carneros, really great Chardonnay, really typical Carneros fruit. And unfortunately, Rob didn't make any in 2011. They had a problem with rot. You know, this is a producer that is not going to put crap in the bottle. They're not just going to go buy some Chardonnay and say, we have to put something in the bottle so we can sell to our wine club people at $40 a bottle. But this is a really, like I said, textbook Carneros Chardonnay. You get a little bit of that creme brulee note in that vanilla spice, and lovely ripe tropical fruit, and bright acidity coming through on the finish. Just the right amount of toasty oak spice, lovely creamy texture in this wine, a really nice balance, and more elegant style of Carneros Chardonnay, but still typical Napa with that lovely ripe tropical fruit. An excellent bottle of Chardonnay 2010, a more classic vintage. Then we went on to some unique stuff that Rob sent us, the 2007 Syrah. And Syrah had a nice animale, kind of gamey note to it, which you get from the Northern Rhone, kind of more old world style. Had that sauvage note that the French call it, dark plum and cherry fruit there, and a little bit of a leathery note to the finish, but really nice bottle of Syrah. Maybe not typical of what you get from Vinecliff, though, with maybe a little more old world in style. All right, next up we have the 2005 vintage wines, which 2005, a fabulous vintage in Napa. And the difference between Rob's Napa Cab and his Oakville Estate, which we don't have up here, but we do have some in the store, I think. Oh, maybe not. It's sold out. And then the private stock, it's all from their estate vineyard in Oakville. All the wines, other than the Syrah, are from their own vineyards. They don't buy any fruit. They have some Zinfandel that they have up there. They have exclusively for the mailing list. The Cabernet Napa is kind of everything that doesn't make it into the Oakville. And then the Oakville is kind of like 1,000 cases of the best wine they can make. They try to keep it right around there every year. And then the private stock, they go through barrel by barrel, and they say, all right, well, it started out as 18 rows. The best, spot, the sweet spot in the vineyard. They found that these rows always are producing some of the best wine from the property. But they've got other spots now that have started to produce outstanding quality wines after the vineyard's been replanted and starting to come into its own. So the private stock varies in production, but 300 to 500 cases, so very small. And then they had another wine, the Pickett Road, which we still have a little bit of that wine in the store, but I sold that to Justin Woodridge for just a stupid amount of money. Justin came up and said, we want to buy your vineyard right next to Isley in Calistoga, the Isley Vineyard. He said, no, it's not for sale. And then he said, all right, I'll give you $7 million. He said, all right, sold. So, there is a price. That's right, folks. Even when people come up and say it's not for sale, if you give them a stupid amount of money for it, they will take it. And the Napa Cab 05 drinking beautifully right now. Really, both of these 05 showing nicely. Oakville Estate also. Really lovely dark cherry and currant berry fruit here. The tannins really starting to soften out a little bit. But this wine still has lovely freshness. It still will go another 3-5 years easily in your cellar. 05, a very good vintage, has the structure to last. The 2005 Oakville, a little more depth and complexity than the Napa, and just a longer finish. The really lush black cherry fruit, notes of dark cocoa spice. The tannins starting to mellow out in this wine. It's a little longer finish, but still has that lovely balance and that nice freshness that the 2005 Napa had in the Oakville. Then we go on to our private stock. I'm sorry, our 2009 flight. We had Oakville Estate. We have Oakville Cuvée X. We have private stock, all from 09. I figured we show those together and then go back in time. Rob sent us a few older vintages out, the 08 and 04. The Oakville Estate and the Cuvée X and the private stock. What's the difference with these wines? Well, the Cuvée X, he said, man, we got to give some of our mailing list people something unique. So what they did is they took 2 barrels of Oakville and 2 barrels of private stock and blended them together. And let's see what the hell happens. Well, you know what? I thought that the Cuvée X had a little bit more earthiness to it, but very similar, obviously. It's the same wine, this private stock in the Oakville estate. So only 100 cases was produced of that wine, but all three of these wines most excellent. This was a really good vintage in Napa, and the wines are very showy right now. Gorgeous ripe black cherry and currant berry fruit on the nose, toasty oak spice, dark chocolate, sweet tobacco, really ripe currant and cassis berry fruit showing on the palate. The private stock, just another layer of depth and complexity from these two wines. This was my favorite of the three wines. Lovely dark chocolate, really a spice to this wine that all the wines had, but this wine just seemed to have it times two. A really nice structure, decadent fruit, and still some unresolved tannins in these wines, though these 09s need a little more time in your cellar to be at their peak. The private stock, killer juice, this 2009. All right, the 2008, a little more evolved. 2008 is a vintage, really drinking nicely right now, but very similar in style, just not quite as tannic, a little softer on the edges. And then the 2004 had a bit of eucalyptus in the nose. It turned into kind of a tar-like quality, but still opened up really nicely. Had a lot of nice black cherry and currant berry fruit still showing in this wine, and some dark cocoa spice. Really nice bottle of wine. Still has some years to go, but just a little distinct difference with that wine, with that eucalyptus and kind of black tar, earthy, spicy note to it. But everything most excellent on this evening with Rob. Thanks very much. That's what we had to drink with Rob Sweeney from Vine Cliff Winery. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink